Recently, I discovered someone was following me, and it was very strange. She was very patient, always secretly following me for more than half a month, but also simply watching without doing anything too much. I didn't mind at all, but today, when I was on my way home, she appeared again. I decided to test her a bit, deliberately stopping and pretending to check WeChat messages on my phone. In fact, I just wanted to look through my camera to observe her. As soon as I stopped, the girl following me was startled and quickly hid behind a tree like a small cat caught in the act. I could see clearly through my phone screen. She was wearing a baseball cap. A few curls of hair hung down to cover her face. Her eyes were hidden under the shadow of the cap, and half of her face was exposed, elegant and white, with very delicate features. For a moment, I suddenly wanted to tease her, because her cuteness and shyness were so attractive. I pretended to drop the watch, then turned to look at her. She was stunned for a moment, and I stopped in front of her, smiled gently and asked, "Hello, I just dropped my watch. Did you see it?" The girl, slightly trembling, instinctively replied, No, I don't see it." I looked at her curiously and asked again, "Are you too stressed?" The atmosphere suddenly became tense and silent for a few seconds, before she slowly held out her hand, on which was a sparkling four-leaf clover clock. "Sorry, I didn't expect to lose it like that," she said, her expression a bit embarrassed. I just smiled slightly, received the watch back, and said, "Thank you very much. This watch is very important to me." After that, I quietly left, but didn't forget to glance back at her. The girl almost hurriedly left, and I couldn't help but smile at her cuteness. That's me, deep song. A month ago, a young man claiming to be a young master came to my house, and I could not have imagined that I would be considered nanny's child in the eyes of many people. In fact, I am not a real young master. Because of this, everything in my life did not go smoothly. The interviews, the failures, all pushed me to a dead end. However, one day, I received a sum of money from an unknown source, and from then on everything seemed to change. When being bullied by a group of bad people, a girl suddenly appeared, saved me from danger, and then left in silence. She was in T-Do, and not long after, I learned that she was the one who protected me from afar. However, she did not dare to come closer, afraid that she would not be able to control her emotions. Our past, our accidental encounters, all seemed like an unreachable dream. Now that I understand these things, I feel a strong connection to her, and I want to know all about her. I found her WeChat account and secretly followed her. On her profile picture was a picture of a middle-aged woman, and I couldn't help but notice in T-Do's amazing talent in disguise. However, I discovered her from a small detail that I accidentally discovered. Time passed quickly. The doorbell rang a few times. I put on my pajamas and opened the door. We looked at each other for a few seconds, and T-Do stood in front of the door, wearing an AO die with the words "Home Repair" printed on it, holding a toolbox in her hand, her long fingers clutching the hat, a mask covering her face, revealing only her beautiful eyes, looking at me with shyness. The girl spoke first. Her voice was gentle, slightly hesitant. "Hello, I'm here to repair at your home." I observed her from head to toe, with no intention of inviting her in. Her eyes flashed with disappointment, and then tears welled up. She stood still, looking like she wanted to leave. I asked a question, my voice a bit annoyed. "Find someone else." The girl's voice was somewhat tough, as if she wanted to refute, but there was a bit of shyness. "Aren't I looking for someone else?" She bowed her head, her voice lowered, as if she wanted to explain but hesitated. "Actually, I'm Ms. Vong's daughter. Today I'm working for my mother." Even though her expression was unconvincing, I didn't expose her words. I had to open the door to let her in, and T-Do started work, squatting to fix the faucet in the bathroom. I looked at her meticulous operations and couldn't help but admit that she worked very carefully. The feeling she radiated seemed very sincere, far different from my initial doubts. The girl is indeed not a fraud. It feels like I want to compliment her, but I don't want to make her happy too soon. Actually, if she were a puppy, I could picture her happily wagging her tail. I deliberately leaned closer to her, making her tense. Just as I was about to look up, I asked, "That's strange, I didn't send you the address. How do you know where my house is?" She stopped for a moment. Her face turned pale, her hand movements suddenly stopped, causing water to splash on her body. I looked at her calmly and continued to joke. You're not following me, are you? At this moment, my eyes did not leave her, looking into her eyes waiting for a reaction. The girl stiffened slightly, her eyes blinked, red, not daring to look at me. At this moment, I saw signs of worry in her eyes. You probably saw my location on your friend's circle, right? I smiled, intentionally letting that question make her confess. She took a deep breath, looked a little relieved, and finally admitted, "Yes, I saw it." She bowed her head, pretending to be busy as if to hide the trembling in her voice. She didn't say anything more. More than 20 minutes later, Enrich finished her work, carried the toolbox, and stood waiting. She looked at me, her eyes sparkling, as if she wanted to regain some dignity. She said softly, "Brother, I've fixed it." The sodden hat was still in her hand, water still lingering in her hair. I couldn't help it, reached out and rubbed her head, feeling her soft head, then softly said, "Very good." She was stunned, a little confused, but her face did not show strong emotions. However, I saw the corners of her lips curl up uncontrollably in joy. I smiled lightly, my tone was cheerful, and told her, "I just tricked you. Actually, I didn't post my location on my friend's circle at all." And Enrich blushed again. Her face seemed about to burn. She was 18 years old. She didn't know if she was embarrassed or really annoyed by me. The girl said nothing, just remained silent, her appearance stiff as if she were standing on a rope. I looked at her, deliberately smiling teasingly. "That's right, I saw everything," I said. "Are you ready to put the cuffs and chains on me?" She blushed, quickly bowed her head, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry, I just want to protect you. I don't have any malicious intentions." Looking at her embarrassed expression, I couldn't contain my excitement. She smiled weakly, saying she had no malice, but couldn't understand her curiosity and desire to protect me expressed in such a way. Surely, she hasn't realized it yet, but in my eyes, her shyness only makes me want to tease her more. When I thought of this, I couldn't control myself and let out a small cry. Sorry, I continue to do things that hurt others." I had just removed the camera in the bathroom, opened the door, and was ready to go downstairs and throw it away when I suddenly saw Enrich, holding a bouquet of green hydrangeas, walking back and forth by the stairs. She muttered, seemingly thinking about something. What should I say so that he won't refuse my invitation? I listened, my hands clasped unconsciously, my heart pounding as she continued. "The day after tomorrow, when I turn 18 years old, my family will have a party. Can you come? Is it too casual to talk about it with this tension?" I could sense the insecurity in her voice. The eyes sparkled, shining with a light of innocence and sincerity. Surely she was expecting a yes. Faced with that image, I couldn't hide my emotions. My anger seemed to vanish. My many prayers to God to be able to see her again have come true. How can I refuse this invitation? I didn't think much, walked quickly past her, my eyes met her bright eyes. She gently spoke. "Brother, the other day I could only nod and reach out, gently scratching her chin. Enrich's party took place in a bustling atmosphere, full of famous characters. The crowd made it impossible for her to leave the crowd, unable to escape. I leaned in the corner of the room, enjoying sweets, listening to the whispers of conversations around me. "This is so delicious," came from me as I enjoyed a piece of cake. I did not expect that the presence of Deep Fam and his ex-fiancée Tante would make the party more tense. Deep Fam, who always wears a high-class suit, simply held a glass of wine in his hand and said, "We haven't seen each other for a few days. Are you living this miserably?" His tone was disdainful, but it was the next tiny words that caught my attention. "Tante and I are engaged. Don't think I don't know your purpose today. You should leave." My eyes didn't leave the glass of wine, as if I didn't care about his words. But my cold eyes could not avoid Tante's eyes. She approached me. Her tone was full of intimacy, but I knew clearly what she wanted. "Lately, I heard that you are very close to Enrich." Tante said, her eyes filled with intrigue. I simply replied, "Yes, it's nothing." She suddenly gave me a packet of medicine and continued to threaten. "Let me give her this medicine, then everything will be okay. Then, you will help me, right?" I didn't let her provoke me any further, just shrugged my shoulders and smiled faintly. I didn't care about her games, and that smile was my confirmation that no one could manipulate me. After a while, when everything calmed down, I felt very happy. My value was demonstrated through this action. Titan Tuet and Deep Fam were exposed to the truth. They cannot escape the shell they created for themselves. And I, still continuing my life, can still laugh gently. As soon as I turned around, and T-Doo's eyes fell on me again. She stood there, in an evening gown, her hair carefully combed, her eyes clear and full of maturity. Her lips curled slightly, and the light shone on her smooth skin. "Brother, you know I can't bear to quit smoking, right?" That statement surprised me. Her eyes sparkled with wisdom, both triumphant and a little disappointed. She smiled slightly, then continued, "You don't know? I'm an adult, not a little girl anymore." I didn't answer right away, just smiled gently and gave her a piece of cake, saying, "Don't worry, don't think too much, you're still very young." She quietly ate the cake, a bright smile appearing, but also a bit shy. That feeling is really interesting. We were both immersed in silence, each with our own thoughts, but all had unexpected endings. "You lied to me again, right? Actually, you already knew, right?" I couldn't help myself and decided to expose her. "Don't you like me too?" She curled her lips, no longer hiding herself. A predator's aura began to exude from her. Engagement, pleasure, pleasure. My cheeks were pulled back as she spoke. "Did you find out?" When I woke up, it was 5 p.m. The warm sunset shines through the ground-level window, covering my body. A feeling of loss suddenly came. I don't know why, but that feeling still seems to linger in my mind. The person next to me, his eyelashes fluttering, still slept restlessly. On the bedside table was a plate of strangely shaped cookies, including one shaped like a heart. It must have been grilled by T-Doo, along with a cup of hot milk. I took a piece of cake, tasted it, and found it didn't taste bad. Turning on my phone, I saw messages from Titan Tuet. "Deep song, do you dare to play with me? Don't think that if you run away, I won't be able to find you. You dare to drug me and make me paralyzed. You better not let me see you, otherwise I will make your life worse than death." Another message from Deep Fam, 7:30 tonight. Meet at the coffee shop. Looking at the messages, I frowned. They are definitely on the same side. I already had a plan in my heart, to go deep into Titan Tuet's lair and eliminate the disaster. I gently got out of bed, intending to quietly go out, but was suddenly pulled back. A pair of clear eyes, like a kitten, was looking at me. "Brother, don't go, okay?" Her soft voice rang out, full of weakness. I stroked her head and said softly, "Good boy, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going out for a bit. I'll be right back." She pressed her head against my neck and gently said, "You don't need to see her. I broke her legs this morning for your fiancé, sent her to prison, and even turned her into a mute. From now on, she will no longer dare to speak ill of you." I remained silent, my heart filled with an indescribable feeling. She did it to protect me, just like in her previous life, when she sacrificed herself for me. But now I don't have to worry anymore, because she can take revenge herself. I smiled and sent a text message to my mother, informing her that your current son is also just a fake. It felt like a rock had fallen from my heart. I turned back to look at T-Doo and said softly, "Next time, if anything happens, you must call me to come with you. Don't take risks alone, you must have my consent. I will take care of you." She obediently nodded. I looked at her again, confirmed that she was not injured, then breathed a sigh of relief, hugging her tightly. "I don't want to lose you anymore." And T-Doo whispered, her voice a bit choked, "Me too." I was stunned for a moment, not quite understanding why she said that, but didn't ask further. She hugged me tightly, her chin resting on my neck, and her choked voice rang out, "Am I special to you? Have you loved me for a long time?" "Yes, it's been a long time," I replied, my voice soft. "Last time, it was after you died that I realized my feelings. Luckily, this time everything was still on time." Once again, I hugged her tightly. This moment, I have imagined countless times, but now, it is actually happening. Feeling the strong beat of her heart, I couldn't help but cry. She gently wiped my tears, then said, "Me too. As long as you don't hate me, I'll do whatever you tell me to do." I patted her head, smiled, and gently said, "I don't need you to do anything. As long as you live well, that's enough." There's no need to repay her.